This is the moment everything changes. For years, we've tracked the subtle shifts, the whispered rumors, and the glaring inconsistencies emerging from Roloff Farms. We have analyzed every property line dispute, every tense family dinner, and every suspicious financial move. But what we are discussing today isn't just another feud. It is the end game. According to explosive new theories and insider reports circling the production of Little People, Big World, the gavel has finally come down. We are looking at what legal analysts might call a total corporate restructuring, but what the fans simply call justice. The headline that is sending shockwaves through the fandom is unprecedented. A judge has reportedly issued a ruling that legally designates Caryn Chandler as a, quote, harmful influence to the corporate entity of Roloff Farms. If these reports are true, this is not just a breakup. It is a court-ordered eviction. The theory suggests that Caryn is being legally barred from the property, effectively exiled from the land she sought to control. And in the wake of this stunning legal defeat, a broken Matt Roloff is allegedly left with only one option to save his legacy: begging Amy Roloff to return. Welcome back to LPBW Update, where we dig deeper than the cameras ever dare to go. Today, we are presenting the finale of our investigative series, Topic 30, the final eviction and the return of the matriarch. We need you to listen closely, because the narrative we are about to unravel connects every single dot we have uncovered over the last 29 updates. From the drone spying allegations to the falsified soil reports, from the embezzlement theories to the alienation of Zach and Jeremy, it all leads to this single day in court. This is the day of reckoning. To understand the magnitude of this alleged court ruling, we have to look at the sheer volume of evidence that has theoretically piled up against Caryn Chandler. We aren't talking about hurt feelings or bad blood anymore. We are talking about what sources are describing as a systematic attempt to devalue the family legacy for personal gain. The premise of this final showdown is that a third-party legal entity, perhaps representing the trust holding the farm, or a silent partner looking out for the grandchildren's future, finally had enough. The theory is that a comprehensive dossier containing 30 separate folders of evidence was submitted to a Washington state judge. These folders allegedly detail a pattern of behavior that goes beyond the role of a girlfriend and crosses into the territory of corporate sabotage. Picture the scene. It is a rainy Tuesday morning in Oregon. The mist is hanging low over the pumpkin patch, but the real storm is brewing downtown at the courthouse. According to the timeline of this theoretical narrative, Amy Roloff and Chris Merrick arrive first. They aren't there to gloat. They aren't there to cause a scene. They are there as witnesses to the legacy. Amy is holding a briefcase that sources speculate contains the foundational documents, the original deeds and agreements that stated the farm was always meant for the children. Chris is by her side, stoic and supportive, a stark contrast to the chaos about to unfold. The atmosphere is heavy. For years, Amy has been painted as the bitter ex-wife, the one who couldn't let go. But today, the narrative flips. She walks up those courthouse steps not as a woman scorned, but as the protector of the Roloff name. Minutes later, Matt Roloff's truck pulls up. But the man stepping out isn't the confident, visionary CEO we've seen on television for decades. Observers describe a man who looks defeated, tired, and incredibly lonely. He is moving slowly, his crutches clicking against the wet pavement, echoing the fragility of his current position. And then there is Caryn. If the reports are accurate, she steps out with an air of defiance. She is dressed sharply, ready for a fight, seemingly convinced that her influence over Matt will protect her from the legal ramifications of her alleged actions. But what she doesn't realize is that this hearing isn't about Matt's feelings. It's about the corporate entity of Roloff Farms. And in the eyes of the law, feelings don't matter. Fiduciary duty matters. As we move inside the courtroom in this deep dive reconstruction, the tension is palpable. The judge presiding over the case is reviewing the cumulative evidence. Let's break down exactly what is in those 30 folders, based on the investigations we have covered in previous videos. Folder number 1, the drone surveillance. We previously discussed the theory that drones were used to monitor Zach and Tori's private conversations on the property, gathering leverage to use in contract negotiations. If proven, this is a violation of privacy statutes that creates a massive liability for the farm as a business. Folder number 5, the soil reports. You remember the deep dive we did on the bad land narrative? The theory is that false agricultural reports were generated to drive down the property value of the north side, making it impossible for the kids to buy while allowing an outside investor, allegedly connected to Caryn, to swoop in at a discount. That is fraud. The judge flips through the files. The silence in the courtroom is deafening. Matt is reportedly staring at the floor, unable to make eye contact with Amy, who is sitting across the aisle. She looks at him with a mixture of pity and resolve. She knows what is coming. She warned him years ago. She told him that bringing a manager into the family dynamic would poison the well. But Matt didn't listen. He was charmed. He was manipulated. And now, as the judge reads through the file on the embezzlement of pumpkin season profits, the reality is setting in. This file theoretically contains ledgers showing funds being diverted from farm maintenance into personal LLCs controlled by Caryn. We are talking about money meant for the petting zoo, for the castle repairs, for the legacy of the grandkids, allegedly being siphoned off for vacations in Arizona and luxury renovations that have nothing to do with the farm. The turning point of this hearing, the moment the heir leaves the room, is when the judge addresses the harmful influence clause. In corporate law, if an individual's presence or actions are deemed to be actively destroying the value of a business asset, a judge can issue an injunction to remove them. This is rarely used in family disputes, which highlights the severity of the situation. The argument presented by the legal team representing the farm's interest is simple. Caryn Chandler is not family. She is an employee turned partner whose actions have arguably cost the farm millions in potential revenue, destroyed the brand's public image, and alienated the key talent, Zach, Jeremy, Molly, and Jacob. Without the Roloff children, the farm is just a plot of land. The brand is the family. By driving the family away, Caryn has theoretically destroyed the asset. The defense tries to argue, we can assume Caryn's lawyers attempt to frame this as a domestic dispute, a bitterness from the divorce spilling over. They likely try to argue that Matt has the right to invite whomever he wants onto his private property, but the judge cuts them off. This is where the safety and liability evidence comes into play. We have to recall the sabotage of the big house theory. There were reports of maintenance requests being ignored, leading to safety hazards that made the house uninhabitable for the grandchildren. A judge looking at this evidence sees a clear pattern, a deliberate attempt to make the farm hostile to the Roloff lineage. Matt is shifting in his seat. He looks at Caryn, expecting reassurance, expecting her to have a plan. But for the first time, he sees the cracks in the armor. She isn't looking at him with affection. She is looking at the judge with calculation. She realizes the narrative is slipping. The manager persona is dissolving, revealing the liability underneath. The judge asks Matt a direct question. Mr. Roloff, were you aware that these funds were diverted? Were you aware that the security protocols were altered to surveil your own children? Matt's silence speaks volumes. In this theoretical scenario, this is the moment Matt realizes he has been a pawn in his own kingdom. He stammers. He tries to defend her, but his heart isn't in it. He knows the truth. He knows why Zach won't come around. He knows why Jeremy bought a farm an hour away. It wasn't just them being stubborn. It was survival.
The ruling, when it comes, is swift and merciless. The judge does not mince words. The court finds that the continued presence of Caryn Chandler on the premises of Roloff Farms constitutes a clear and present danger to the financial and reputational solvency of the business. The gavel bangs, the order is issued. It is a permanent no trespass order. This is significantly more severe than a simple breakup. A breakup means you can still visit. A no trespass order means if she sets foot on the land, she will be arrested. It is the ultimate legal eviction. The judge declares that for the farm to survive, the cancer must be excised. The reaction in the courtroom is chaotic. Caryn is stunned. For the first time, the mask slips completely. Witnesses theoretically describe a flash of pure rage, not sadness, not heartbreak, but the anger of someone who has lost a game they thought was rigged in their favor. She turns to Matt, demanding he do something, demanding he appeal. But Matt is frozen. He is looking across the aisle at Amy. Amy hasn't moved. She hasn't cheered. She just nods. A slow, solemn acknowledgement that the truth has finally been recognized by a court of law. The viral hook we promised you, judge orders Caryn to leave, is happening right now in this narrative. The bailiff hands the paperwork to Caryn. She has 24 hours to remove her personal effects from the property, 24 hours to erase years of infiltration. As the court adjourns, the hallway scene is even more telling. Amy and Chris exit first, heads held high. They don't stop for the cameras. They don't need to. The victory isn't in the press. It's in the protection of the legacy. But back inside, the dynamic has shifted violently. Matt and Caryn are left alone in the consultation room. The screaming match that allegedly ensues is the stuff of legend. Insider theories suggest that Caryn unleashes on Matt, calling him weak, blaming him for not fixing the judge, revealing her true colors in a way that Matt can no longer ignore. She isn't worried about losing Matt, she's worried about losing the asset. And in that moment, seeing her rage over the property rather than their relationship, the final blinder falls from Matt's eyes. He sees the gold digger accusations that fans have been hurling for years were not just hate comments, they were warnings. He leaves the courthouse alone. He gets into his truck alone. The drive back to Helvetia is the longest of his life. He passes the signs for the farm, signs that he painted, signs that bear his name. But for the first time in years, he realizes that the name Roloff barely exists on that land anymore. It's just dirt and buildings. The soul of the farm, the family, is gone. And the woman he sacrificed everything for has just been legally declared a hazard to his life's work. This is the setup for the next phase of our story. We have covered the legal smackdown. We have covered the exposure of the fraud. But the hardest part is yet to come. Matt has to go home, watch the woman he thought he loved pack her bags, and then face the terrifying silence of the big house. But he won't be alone for long, because as Caryn is forced out, a vacuum is created. And nature abhors a vacuum. Matt knows he cannot run this place alone. He physically can't, and emotionally, he is bankrupt. He needs a partner, not a manager, not a girlfriend. He needs the matriarch. He needs the only other person on earth who loves that dirt as much as he does. The next section of our deep dive is going to take you inside the gates of the farm during that 24-hour eviction window. We will break down the confrontation at the farmhouse, the loading of the truck, and the phone call that changes the future of little people, big world forever. Stay tuned, because the villain's fall is just beginning. The legal battle is over, but the emotional war is about to reach its climax. We are moving from the cold sterility of the courtroom to the raw emotion of the farm. We will explore the exclusive theory that Matt, in a moment of desperate clarity, reaches out to Zach and Jeremy, only to be met with voicemail. He has burned those bridges too thoroughly. There is only one bridge left standing, charred but stable. And her name is Amy. The drive back to the farm was silent, but according to sources on the ground, the arrival was a Category 5 hurricane. We are now entering the phase of the timeline that insiders are calling the Great Extraction. You have to understand the logistics here. The court order allegedly gave Caryn Chandler exactly 24 hours to vacate the premises. That is not a lot of time to dismantle a life that has been aggressively embedded into the Roloff infrastructure for years. This creates a pressure cooker situation. When Matt's truck rolled through the gates, followed closely by Caryn, the crew, who had been kept at a distance, reportedly sensed a shift in the atmosphere so toxic that production was initially halted. They couldn't film this. This wasn't reality TV drama. This was real-life collapse. We have received reports that the packing process began almost immediately, and it was not peaceful. Theories suggest that Caryn didn't just pack clothes. She was reportedly seen gathering documents, blueprints, and files from the farm office. Materials that legal experts speculate could contain sensitive information regarding the new build and the Arizona properties. This aligns perfectly with the corporate espionage theory we discussed in Topic 12. If she knew she was being ousted, the priority wouldn't be sentimental items, it would be leverage. Witnesses describe a chaotic scene of boxes being thrown into the back of a rental truck, slamming doors and frantic phone calls to unknown parties, possibly the same investors linked to the suspicious soil reports. Matt, meanwhile, was nowhere to be seen during the chaos. Sources place him inside the big house, sitting in his office, watching the monitors. It is a poetic, tragic irony. The same surveillance system he allegedly allowed to be used against his own children was now the only way he could watch the woman he loved dismantle their relationship. He didn't help her pack. He didn't plead with her to stay. The court ruling had shattered the illusion. He wasn't watching a girlfriend move out. He was watching a liability being removed. The silence coming from the big house was deafening. It was the silence of a man realizing that every warning his ex-wife gave him, every concern his twin boys raised, and every negative comment from the fan base was absolute truth. As the sun began to set over Helvetia, the no trespass deadline loomed. The final exit, as described by those close to the situation, was devoid of the usual fanfare. There were no tearful goodbyes. There was just the cold, mechanical sound of a diesel engine starting up. As Caryn's truck pulled away, kicking up dust on the gravel road that leads past the pumpkin patch, Matt reportedly stepped out onto the porch. He watched the taillights fade, and just like that, the manager, the girlfriend, the influence, she was gone. The farm was empty, and for the first time in years, the air was clear. But clarity is painful. This brings us to the dark night of the soul segment of our investigation. The hours following the eviction are crucial to understanding why the next twist happens. You have to put yourself in Matt Roloff's shoes at this moment. He is standing on a property worth millions, surrounded by custom-built attractions, castles, and pirate ships, but he is completely isolated. The silence of the farm at night is heavy. Without the noise of the feud, without the distraction of Caryn whispering in his ear about business moves, the reality of his situation crashes down. He walks through the house, a house that was redesigned to fit Caryn's taste, not his family's needs. He sees the modifications, the modern aesthetic that stripped away the rustic charm Amy loved. It all feels foreign now. It feels like a hotel lobby, not a home. Exclusive theories suggest that in this moment of solitude, Matt attempts to reach out to the only people who should be there, his children. We have heard rumors of a phone call made to Zach. It rings and goes to voicemail. "Hey Zach, it's Dad. I just wanted to talk." He hangs up. He tries Jeremy. Voicemail. The bridge is out. The realization hits him like a physical blow. He chose the asset over the heirs, and now he has lost the asset, leaving him with nothing. The Roloff legacy he talks about so incessantly is dead. It died the day he let a harmful influence dictate the terms of his relationship with his sons. This is the pivotal moment. The narrative arc demands a resolution. Matt knows he cannot run this farm alone. His physical limitations are real. The sheer scale of pumpkin season requires a general, not just a soldier. And he just fired his general. He needs someone who knows the land, not just the spreadsheets. He needs someone who remembers where the irrigation lines are buried, someone who knows the history of every tree, someone who actually cares about the soul of the place. He realizes he doesn't need a business partner. He needs the matriarch. Now, this is where the story gets explosive. According to our timeline, it is less than 48 hours after the eviction ruling. Amy Roloff is at her new home with Chris, living her best life. She has moved on. She has won. She has the moral high ground and the peace of mind that comes with it. But her phone rings, and the caller ID says, Matt. Normally, she might let it go to voicemail, But insiders speculate that Chris, the voice of reason, encourages her to answer. He wouldn't call unless it was an emergency, Chris might say. And he's right. This isn't a social call. This is an SOS. The conversation that follows is the stuff of legend. We don't have the recording, but based on the subsequent actions, we can reconstruct the dialogue with high probability. Matt doesn't lead with pride. He is broken. He admits it. He tells her, "She's gone. The judge ordered her out. It's over, Amy." There is a pause on the line. Amy doesn't gloat. She doesn't say, "I told you so," even though she has every right to scream it from the rooftops. Instead, she listens. Matt confesses the state of the farm. He admits the finances are a mess, the crew is demoralized, and the family is shattered. He drops the bombshell request. "I can't do this alone. The farm is going to go under. I need you to help me save it, not for me, but for the grandkids." That is the key, the grandkids. Matt knows Amy's weakness. She would never lift a finger to help Matt Roloff, the businessman, but she would walk through fire for Jackson, Lila, Ember, and Bodie. He frames the request perfectly. If the farm fails, the legacy for the grandchildren vanishes. If they can stabilize it, there is still a chance, a slim chance, to hand it over to the boys in the future. He is offering a surrender. He is offering to undo the mistakes of the negotiation that drove Zach away. Amy is skeptical. She should be. But the theory is that Chris Merrick steps up here as the ultimate peacemaker. He sees the potential for closure. He sees a way to heal the family rift that has been hovering over their marriage. They agree to a meeting. Not at a coffee shop, not at a lawyer's office, but on the ground, at Roloff Farms. The next morning, Amy's car turns into the driveway. This visual is powerful. For years, she felt like a guest on her own land, pushed out by the new management. But today, she drives in as the only hope for the farm's survival. She parks next to the barn. Matt is waiting for her. He looks aged, humbled. There is no Caryn hovering over his shoulder, checking her watch, rolling her eyes. It's just Matt and Amy, the original duo, standing on the dirt they conquered together 30 years ago. The negotiation that takes place in the barn is not about money. It's about power and boundaries. Amy reportedly lays down the law. If she is to step back in to help manage the transition and save the season, there are conditions. Condition 1, absolute transparency. No more hidden LLCs, no more secret deals. Condition 2, the harmful influence is never allowed back, not even for a visit. Condition 3, the ultimate goal is a succession plan for the children. She isn't doing this to build Matt's retirement fund. She is doing this to secure the property for the next generation. Matt agrees to everything. He has no choice. He hands her a set of keys, symbolically returning the keys to the kingdom. This sets the stage for the restoration phase. As Amy walks out of the barn, she isn't just looking at a piece of real estate. She is looking at a crime scene that needs to be cleaned up. The garden is overgrown in patches where Caryn allegedly cut the landscaping budget. The pumpkin patch has signs that are peeling, but Amy sees the potential. She sees the memories. She takes a deep breath, and for the first time in a long time, she smiles. Not a smile of vengeance, but a smile of reclamation. She pulls out her phone and makes 2 calls. The first is Zach. The second is to Jeremy. She leaves a message for both. "Mom's back at the farm. Caryn is gone. We need to have a barbecue." This is the turning point. The villain has been vanquished, the king has been humbled, and the queen has returned. But the question remains, can the damage be undone? Can Amy really fix what Caryn broke? And will the boys actually show up, or is the trauma too deep? We are about to enter the final chapter of this saga, where we witness the physical and emotional cleanup of Roloff Farms. We will see the big house get cleansed of the bad energy, and we will see if a family that has been torn apart by greed and manipulation can find a way to sit at the same table again. The silence that fell over Roloff Farms following the departure of Caryn Chandler was not empty. It was pregnant with possibility. We are now entering the final, most critical phase of our 30-part investigation, the restoration. According to sources familiar with the situation, The moment Amy Roloff stepped back onto the property with the keys in her hand, the atmosphere shifted from a corporate standoff to a reclamation project. This wasn't just about unlocking doors. It was about exorcising the ghost of the managerial era that had nearly suffocated the farm's spirit. The theory we are operating on here is that Amy didn't just walk in to look around. She walked in to perform an audit of the soul of the farm. Witnesses describe Amy moving through the big house with a sense of grim determination. For years, reports have circulated that under Caryn's influence, the main house, once the chaotic, warm heart of the family, had been transformed into a sterile, market-ready asset. We've heard rumors of staging furniture that no one was allowed to sit on, of personal family photos being taken down and replaced with generic art to make the property more appealing to outside investors. As Amy moved from room to room, insiders suggest she began undoing these changes immediately. She reportedly pulled down the heavy blackout curtains that had been installed to keep the prying eyes of tourists out, flooding the living room with Oregon sunlight for the first time in seasons. This symbolic act was the signal. The fortress mentality was over. The home was open again. But the most damning evidence of the harmful influence was allegedly found in the farm office. We have discussed the profit over people approach in previous videos, but the physical manifestation of this was shocking. Theories suggest that Amy found stacks of deferred maintenance orders, critical repairs for the play structures, the western town, and the castle, that had been ignored in favor of funding the aesthetic landscaping around the new build site. This confirms the long-standing suspicion that the farm's legacy attractions were being allowed to rot to justify selling off the land later. Amy, realizing the danger this posed to her grandchildren, reportedly made an emergency call to the farmhands. The order was simple: stop the cosmetic work, fix the castle, make it safe for King Jackson. This brings us to the emotional climax of our saga. Physical restoration is one thing, but relational restoration is the true challenge. We have exclusive reason to believe that once the safety checks were cleared, Amy sent a text message to the family group chat, a chat that had been dormant and fractured for months. The message was brief: the gate is open, the grill is on, come home. There was no begging, no guilt tripping, just a statement of fact. The obstacle was gone. The matriarch was present. It was safe to return. The tension at the farm gates as the weekend approached was palpable. Production crews were reportedly kept at a distance, sensing that this was a private moment that would define the future of the series. Then, it happened. A black SUV turned onto the gravel road. It was Zach and Tori. Then another vehicle, Jeremy and Audrey. The prodigal sons were returning. But they weren't coming back to negotiate a contract with a hostile manager. They were coming back to have dinner with their mother. The theory is that as Zach stepped out of the car, he looked toward the big house, bracing for a confrontation with his father or an awkward interaction with Caryn. Instead, he saw Amy on the porch, waving. And he saw something else: Matt Roloff sitting quietly in his chair, not directing traffic, not barking orders, but simply watching. The dynamic of this reunion is what we have been building toward for 30 topics. It wasn't an explosion of tears, it was a collective exhale. The villain was no longer sucking the oxygen out of the room. As the grandkids, Jackson, Lila, Ember, Bodie, and the rest, spilled out onto the grass, the farm transformed. It ceased being a liability or an asset and became a playground again. We have reports that Matt attempted to stand up and organize a tour, falling back into his old habits of controlling the narrative. But in a stunning twist, he stopped himself. He reportedly looked at Amy, who gave him a look that said, "Not today," and Matt sat back down. He realized, perhaps for the first time, that he didn't need to run the show to be part of the family. He just needed to be a grandfather. The barbecue that ensued is the scene that will go down in reality TV history, even if the cameras weren't rolling to catch every angle. The Roloff legacy was saved not by a legal contract, but by the smell of burgers and the sound of children laughing. Chris Merrick, the unsung hero of this peace treaty, allegedly took over the grill. This is significant.
By allowing Chris to man the grill, the traditional seat of power for the patriarch, Matt was signaling a total surrender of his ego. He was accepting his new role. He wasn't the CEO anymore. He was just dad. And in that surrender, he found the forgiveness he had been desperate for. We have heard whispers of a conversation between Matt and Zach near the pumpkin patch later that evening. No lawyers, no cameras, just a father and son. While we can't know the exact words, body language analysis from distant observers suggests a moment of profound reconciliation. Matt reportedly gestured to the land, then to the kids, and shook his head, an admission of his near-fatal mistake. He had almost traded all of this for a woman who the courts deemed a harmful influence. The theory is that Matt apologized not for the business deal, but for the blindness. He admitted that the north side was never worth losing the inside of the family heart. Zach, stoic as ever, likely didn't offer immediate absolution, but the fact that he stayed for dessert speaks volumes. The wall had come down.
And what of Amy? The return of the matriarch was complete. She wasn't sitting at the head of the table giving orders. She was moving through the crowd, refilling drinks, wiping faces, laughing with Tori and Audrey. She didn't need to own the farm on paper to own the moment. She had proven that the true value of Roloff Farms wasn't in the dirt or the structures. It was in the gathering. She had protected the nest, she had waited out the storm, and now, standing on the porch as the sun set behind the hills, looking out over a family that was finally whole again, she was the undisputed queen of the farm. The harmful influence was packing boxes in a condo miles away, while Amy was holding her grandson in the place she built. Justice isn't always a gavel. Sometimes it's a family dinner. As the cars packed up to leave, the mood was light. There was no "see you in court" or "speak to my attorney." There was just "see you next Sunday." Matt remained on the porch as everyone left. He was alone again, but this time, it wasn't the lonely isolation of the eviction night. It was the peaceful solitude of a man who has been given a second chance. He looked at the empty driveway, then back at the house. A house that felt warmer, lived in, and cleansed. The Caryn era was officially a closed chapter in the history books. The Restoration era had begun. This concludes our deep dive into Topic 30. We have taken you from the dark depths of the drone spying allegations, through the labyrinth of the fake soil reports, past the heartbreak of the eviction notice, and finally, to this moment of victory. We have exposed the fraud, tracked the money, and revealed the truth behind the harmful influence ruling. The evidence is undeniable. When you try to monetize a family, you lose the family. But when you protect the legacy, the assets take care of themselves. We started this journey with a question. Could the Roloff family survive the ambition of an outsider? The answer, definitively, is yes, but only because the matriarch refused to let go. Amy Roloff played the long game. She endured the insults, the displacement, and the disrespect, knowing that eventually the truth would shine through. And today, the farm is safe. The kids are back, and the villain is gone. This has been the most explosive series we have ever covered on LPBW Update. We have uncovered secrets that the production company tried to bury, and we have connected dots that the mainstream media ignored. But the story doesn't end here. The restoration is just beginning. How will Matt handle the upcoming pumpkin season without his manager? Will Zach and Jeremy actually take over the deed now that the path is clear? And what will Caryn do next now that she has been exiled? We have received tips that she is already shopping for a tell-all book deal. If that happens, you know we will be the first to break it down. But for now, let's celebrate this win. Justice has finally been served. Amy Roloff is the true queen of the farm, and the family is healing. If you have been on this journey with us for all 30 topics, if you have watched every update and followed every lead, I need you to do one thing right now. Go to the comment section and type "victory" in all caps. Let the algorithm know that we stand with the family, not the fraud. And if you haven't already, smash that subscribe button and hit the bell notification. Our next series is already in the works,
and we are going to investigate the lost episodes, the footage they refused to air during the divorce. You do not want to miss it. This is LPBW Update, signing off. The farm is safe. Case closed.